Ayan, Lohit, thank you very much for those introductions. In terms of format, I know we are the session right before lunch. It's always one of the hardest sessions to be. So we'll keep the session short. I'm going to ask our two co-panelists some questions, give some insights from my work experience with working with family businesses, and then we'll open it up for Q&A to the audiences. So my family has been advisors to family businesses for the last 65 years. Some of the largest families in the country have been clients of the firm for 65 years. And I, as a third generation, have entered this family. And I spend a lot of my time working with the second and third generation of these families as they're ushering into, and the program that we run for them is called Ushering the Next Generation. Frankly, none of them, because of their education and experiences and global network, often want to work in the traditional family business, and they want to play this role of an entrepreneur. This is a great opportunity for all of us who are providers of products and services to these families. Families traditionally who were hesitant to bringing in outside advisors, to raising outside capital, to bringing debt, to giving a chance to a fellow entrepreneur. That mindset is fundamentally changing in India as this young generation is coming into the position of decision makers. I always encourage large families and even mid and small size families that, rather than not giving the decision-making ability to your kids from an early age, if you protect that decision-making and hold on to it till you are 55, 60, 70, 80, your son and daughter will be 45 one day and will be left with this huge business without actually having developed that ability to take decisions. And business is all about taking decisions with limited information and time, as you all know. So I always encourage these families to allow their kids to take small bets. If it fails, it's great because they've learned from something from an experience. Nobody ever learned anything by being perfect. But working with these family businesses, and I'm sure all of you aspire to have these because they're large paymasters, often large accounts and so on and so forth, rather than the typical MNC which goes through a churn in terms of people. Often if you have the ability to get some of these people as clients, they stay on for 1, 2, 3, 4 generations. So these are very attractive kind of clients to have. So I'm going to talk to both of my co-panelists around this issue. What does it really mean to work with a family business as a client or a customer? So we'll start with Lohit. Lohit, you mentioned that the Podar school is a family business which is a client. How has your experience been? How did you get them as a client? What does that relationship mean today?
Check. Yeah. So I bootstrapped and we didn't get to Podar directly. We started working with small schools in Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan. And when we got to Podar, the experience was very different. So with Podar, he wanted to experiment with bigger things because he had 62 schools. Whereas when we go to a smaller school, they want to experiment with just one class. So the scale becomes an issue. And obviously the kind of investment which businesses like Podars can come up with. So that gives us a lot of flexibility to experiment on and develop a world-class product as opposed to something which is working only in smaller segment. In the school. And not just that, for example, we work a lot with CBSE, which is a huge board with 15,000 schools. Now, though, you can compare it with the same family business scale, where the scale is huge. So when we work with them, the kind of insights which we get. So apart from, the scale of selling, the insights which we get, which we can then deploy to create the products better, becomes much, much more.
Okay, excellent. Are they good paymasters, or would you work for them for free just to get their branding and to be able to say we work for X, Y, and Z family? Should you do that as a business?
We never were required to work for free for them, but yeah, they pay a lot, so that's good.
Good to hear that.
Bootstrapping is the word.
Excellent. Yeah. Ayan, how about your experience? Any customers or clients who've been family businesses? How has your experience been with them?
There are some clients who have a family business, but the main problem is, the main concern for them is, the first generation is, what is internet? Okay, they are saying that, what is the use of website? Why you don't do the outdoor marketing? Because in their time, the only way to do marketing was outdoor. On the hoardings, on roads, and those kind of marketing, newspaper marketing. So we have to motivate them for marketing online. Okay, we tell them that you need some branding. Okay, you need some repo. You need some PR activity for your brand. So that is the main concern.
I get this question asked very often, what is the difference between a personal brand and a company brand, right? So when you are coming from a big family business, the family brand is established, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, Mr. Ratan Tata, Mr. Anand Mahindra. How would you encourage the second, third generation to kind of develop their own brand rather than just living off the legacy of the parent company, right? A lot of these, and the question goes to both of you, a lot of these kids aspire to have their personal brand rather than just living off a legacy.
Yeah, so in fact, there's a case, a brilliant case. So they have, like we'll take Podar itself, they have 62 schools. But we started working with one school. And when we started working with that school 2 years back, now that school, the ranking when it came, that school was selected as one of the top 80 schools in the world. Now that was a personal brand for that particular school, but he has smartly then used that particular brand to take it over to the other areas. So I think personal brand matters a lot, which is why it's Dinodia Capital and not some random capital, because your personal brand is connected to your professional brand. Yeah.
Oh, that is the same answer.
Can these companies use social media to create personal brand? Does tweeting help, Facebook? What is the right way to use social media without your friends crying that stop posting stuff on Facebook, we know you're doing well?
The first thing for branding is, for example, if you choose Facebook, there are, I think, hundreds of platforms for social media. For example, LinkedIn and Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, there are multiple platforms. If you choose just a single platform, that is not required. You have to cover every platform, which is main platforms for social media. So if you just choose Facebook, you have to first of all create a fan book page, okay, that fan page, and if you just post everything personally, that is not called marketing. You have to create public figure page if you are doing personal marketing. If you are doing company marketing, you have to create company page, and you have to post there. Don't if you just want to inform your friends, that is just single post will be enough for them. But if you want to post updates about your company, just post in your public figures page.
Okay, so I have something to contribute there. So I have two pages. One is not pages. One is my Facebook profile, and another is my company page, which someone else handles. Now, since we are an education company, we keep putting these kind of questions like the moon one, which intrigues people. Now, I also put the similar stuff on my thing. Now, there was a good insight which we had last week, where the guy who handles my Facebook page, company page, he said, "Sir, you have more action on your personal profile than on the page." Now, it's good because the same thing happened with politics this time. If you realize that, the politicians went as personal figure, not as a public figure, where they said, all right, you know what, I've been here, this is my photo. So people probably connect to a person better than a company or a large organization. And then probably you could channel that to your product somehow.
Excellent. No, those are great insights. I've also struggled with this as a professional advisory services firm. The clients that we work for are often confidential. So neither can we write on Facebook, hey, we announced this transaction for so-and-so, we did this advice. So it's you have to understand the nature of your business. Are you selling a product or is it a service? What is the nature of confidentiality in terms of that product or service? And then figuring out who is the right social media firm. Very difficult often to do this internally in-house unless you're very savvy and apt with social media. But I feel that personal branding, both from a family business perspective and for all of us, how do you create your personal brand to connect with the promoter and the entrepreneur and the second and third generation? And then how do you do it for your company as well in terms of trying to get in and show them that, look, versus this entire crowded market space, here is our differentiation and here's why, you create that differentiation in the customer's mind and get paid for it. The next question I want to talk about is this age versus attitude. So you have, in this panel itself, you have three very young entrepreneurs, if I may call ourselves that. I want to talk about what is the difference of age versus attitude. So, what encouraged all of us, I would say, to take this leap of faith and go down the entrepreneurial route, having the opportunity to be a part of family business, you decided to go down the path of being an entrepreneur. So what kind of drove you towards doing that, Ayan?
First of all, that was, I'm not directly from the family business, so I've chosen the line of becoming an entrepreneur. So the thing was, first I was very connected to internet, okay. For example, I searched, all the knowledge came from the internet, okay. The source was internet. Internet is wide, very wide network. So there are some forums. There's every knowledge. Okay. So the thing was, I just chosen one line, that is which was the in 2011. Okay, 2011. That the IT was the biggest is upcoming biggest industry. Okay, in the world. So I have chosen that line. Then after 2 years, I have chosen marketing, and that goes on.
Great, thank you. Lohit?
Okay, so the question was age versus attitude, right? Okay, so yeah, I used to be asked a lot when I was in college. Okay, so obviously it's easy to take that leap of faith because the risk is very less. In fact, there's a brilliant saying which we heard when we were in college, saying that an entrepreneur is the one who jumps off the cliff and creates an airplane on the way. And jumping off the cliff and creating an airplane is much easier, I believe, when you're young, because if you fail, nobody notices, and if you succeed, everybody notices. Whereas when you're experienced, there are your family members telling you, hey, there's not enough money here. Whereas in my case, okay, there's another brilliant insight. When I was graduating, my parents said, why don't you just take up a job? I said, so what? If I work in a startup, if I do well, I earn, say, 1 crore rupees a year. And if I don't do well, I go and do my MBA from Harvard or somewhere else. So it's a win-win both the ways. So the risk is very less when you're young. When you're experienced, also people have started up and done really well. Bowman Irani is, even he couldn't start acting in that age. Everyone can.
Great. So the next question I have for you is this value of ideas. How many of you have ideas around businesses? Does anybody have an idea around a business? Does anybody have an idea around a business? Nobody has an idea around business. You should all have ideas. We're in the age of entrepreneurship. I often get calls at all sorts of random hours. I go for a walk to Lodi Garden in the evening. Random people who've heard me speak at conferences walk up to me and say, "Sir, एक idea है. ये business शुरू करना चाहता हूँ मैं." It is ideas are a dime or a dozen. It's the execution which actually matters. So I would encourage all of you to have ideas around businesses. So the next topic that I want to address is what is the difference between a creative idea which has potentials of actually becoming a business versus just a random idea? So is there some science to this concept of an ideation? And should people spend some time thinking about business ideas or continue to do what they're good at doing?
That's a very nice question. In fact, according to me, there are 3 ways with which you can create an idea which can be sold. Not selling would not just mean for money. It could be a social impact idea too. So the 3 things which according to me are, it should be 1, value to the customers, which is a very generic thing. 2, it should right a wrong. So if there is something wrong going on, which you could identify, for example, pager, right? Long time back, we used to have pager, when that was wrong because you'd have to call someone up to send a message. Mobile did it right. So to right a wrong is another way of creating an idea, which is not a fresh idea, but it is making something better. Third is to prevent the end of something good. Now, if you could have a product which prevents the end of something good, people would be ready to pay for it because they want that good with them. So these are the 3 ways which I have learned with which you could create a business idea. In fact, I was amazed when nobody raised hand when he asked, do you have a business idea around you?
Hopefully by the end of this conference, you will have at least one business idea. Take some chances in life.
Or maybe they're very secretive about it.
So like I said, the more you discuss your idea, I'm not saying give your business plan to everybody that you meet. It's about, getting creative conflict. So if you share your ideas with others, learn from other people's mistakes. As a kid growing up, I never read storybooks. And one day when I used to work for Goldman Sachs in the private equity business, my boss said to me, everything that you're trying to do in your business or trying to create, most of it has already been done by somebody in some part of the world. And that knowledge has been documented. So please buy yourself a Kindle and do yourself a service before you think of your new idea. Read a book about it. Somebody's done this, somebody's made mistakes, whether it's an ancillary business of that idea. You'll gain from their knowledge. Obviously, going to conferences is a great venue as well. And it's not just the speakers that you meet or hear on stage, but it's the speakers that you meet and other like-minded people. So these are great forums to bounce off ideas, find like-minded people, and think creatively. So, and I want to ask you, how did you convert your idea into a real business? Could you describe that journey a little bit? Was it easy? Was it hard?
That was easy as well as hard. Okay, the first barrier was my age. Okay, when I have I've done research. I've researched about Bill Gates and every big shots. Okay, so what they have done. I've read all their stories and everything, every forum I have read. But the thing was, their life was different. Okay, everybody's life is different. You cannot connect anybody's life to another person. So what I have done is one day. After studying some programming languages, there are many programming languages, I gone to my mother rooms and said that I just want to be an entrepreneur. She said, but why? Okay, because I was studying and that was very strange that some kid coming to your room and said that I want to be an entrepreneur. So, but she supported me. There was, I think, the investment for my business was approx 10,000, not much than that. Okay, including every website and everything. So total investment. The second barrier was making customers. Okay, when I go to, because at that time, 2011, okay, when I got to customers, they say, you are very young. How we can give you business? You are startup. Okay. So that was the second barrier. You have to motivate them. Okay, you have to you should be confident about your product. Okay, if you are nervous and go to any client, he will never give you the project. If it's of 1,000, or if it's of 1 lakh, he will never give you. So that was the second barrier in my journey to making clients, as well as today I'm 17. Still I face that. If I go to any owner, any builder. So they say, you are very young, how you can do that? How you manage your staff? For one example, will give you that of one builder. He told me that, मेरे से तो staff संभाला नहीं जाता, आप मेरा project क्या संभालोगे? So that was the thing. There are short things. Then I am experienced with it, and then I know that how to handle those clients. That was the second barrier.
You know, they say dreams are free and the hustle is sold separately. So building business is about the hustle, not just the dream, right? Very difficult to be 50, 60 years old and look back at your life and say, काश मैंने वो कर लिया होता, उस time थोड़ी हिम्मत करी होती तो आज कहानी कुछ और होती. So, you know, I would encourage all of you sitting in the audience here today, if you've not thought about businesses and ideas, whether it's about a family business that you come from or are trying to sell a product or service to them, think of creative ideas. You know, it's easier said than done, but I promise you, at least when you're 50, 60, whatever, you won't have any regrets, at least having tried once. And if you fail, you know, like they said, you can always go to Harvard Business School. They love, I sit on the board for the school, so they love candidates who failed and have learned something and have the aspiration of learning further. So on that happy note, we'll open it up for a few minutes to the audiences. I know we had till about 1:35. It's already past that, but we have maybe a few questions and then we'll proceed to lunch.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Please.
That related to family business, I've seen many people as from business class family. Obviously, they have business, kids have to run. Okay, they are pushed to run the family business. So I know some people from the aluminium industry, from fabric industry. So they have changed total the style of the business, okay, and their parents are satisfied with it. But there are some people who cannot change the business style because their parent doesn't allow. So the first thing is make in your speech add the motivation power. Okay, if you go to any client, you go to parent or anyone. Okay, if you want to change the business, nobody, मेरे पास कोई आएगा and he will say that I want to change your business. I will not just answer him. So that's the thing. You can change the business, but after motivating anyone, and there is no business that cannot be changed.
Final thought related to that. I used to be an investment banker in New York for Goldman Sachs, and one client got out of a very expensive car and said, this is the only city in the world where people who run multi-billion-dollar businesses travel in the fanciest of cars and private jets and whatnot, get out of those cars and go to a building where there are people who've taken subways and have walked to work and have come and sat in that chair and are going to give us advice on how we should run our own business and scale it, raise capital, grow, sell, and the strategy piece of it. So, it's an interesting kind of proposition there.